Good morning. Oh, good afternoon, everyone, actually. Thanks for attending our session and joining today. We do have a few people just jumping in now that it's hit 12 o'clock, so we'll get started in a minute as well and just make sure everyone's on mute and do a couple of the back end things. Thank you. Perfect. I'll just make sure everyone can, if everyone can mute themselves just as they come on in as well, just to make sure the sound quality is as good as it can be. Perfect. But look, it has hit just after 12, so let's get started. Look, welcome everyone to today's session with our latest webinar from Plan Partners. So we are looking at discussing the NDIS changes and a bit of a year in review for everyone. We are recording this session, as you might have seen when you've jumped on in, just so we can send this out to anyone that might not be able to join or wants to watch this back as well. If you don't want to be included, that's totally fine. I will just say if you can keep yourself off camera and on mute and contact us after the session as well. In general, if everyone can try and keep their sound and microphone off, that's just a bit easier for everyone to hear as well. Through Teams, if you would like to have closed captions, there is that option through here to do it. So if you are looking at Teams, on the top toolbar, there is the option to click more, and then under language and speech, you've got the option to select live captions and get that started as well. To introduce myself, my name is Isabella Hunter. I'm one of the Victorian Business Relationship Managers. I'm joined today by Natasha Isherwood, who's on screen as well.
Good afternoon, everyone.
She's our Victoria and Tas State Manager, so we're here to present the session for you today. So as I mentioned, so obviously a lot of changes over the last year, 18 months. So we did just want to take everyone through that and give a little bit of context from us as a plan manager, while also going through some of the details surrounding STA, some of those current requirements that have just been released, and then of course going through those, the NDIS in and out list. We will have some time for questions at the end of the presentation or anything that people want to have a bit of a discussion about. Today we've got some of our Plan Partners colleagues, so we've got Rebecca, Jamie and Riddy here to assist you. So they'll be working through the chat function as well to answer anything that comes through as well. Before getting into it, I would like to start today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land of which we all meet. Today we are coming to you from the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I'd like to extend an acknowledgement and welcome to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people here today as we recognise the ongoing contribution to land, sea and community. We also pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'll pass over to Tash just to take us a little bit through Plan Partners and sort of set up the introduction of the payment integrity team.
Thanks, Bella. So Plan Partners are one of Australia's leading NDIS plan management and support coordination providers. We offer a true partnership where customers can rely on our NDIS expertise. We offer the latest tools and unwavering support to achieve meaningful goals that enrich participants' lives. We are a national provider. We have 5 offices across Australia and we support thousands of customers and their NDIS plans to ensure they maximise their funding every day. Bella. So the NDIA Payment Integrity Team. So we've seen the Integrity Team implemented in January this year. And with that, we started to see an influx of invoices that were put on hold, requiring more information. So historically, the NDIA completed their review of payments after the payments had been processed, but now we see them stopping payments and reviewing them beforehand. So essentially, they're taking a close look at what can and cannot be processed under the NDIS plan.
Beautiful.
Bella. So what does this mean for you? So essentially, we'll continue to process payments as quickly as we possibly can. However, when we do process those invoices through, should they actually be stopped by the NDIA payment integrity, it means that it may take a little bit longer for that invoice to be processed and payment made. It also means that we would potentially be asking for some further information, and we'll go into this in a little bit more detail. But essentially, the NDIA payment integrity team kicked off in January, and they started to really look at the reimbursement and STA process. So Bella will cover STA, but just to quickly cover off reimbursements, if you do see a participant going out on the weekend to purchase any items that you would normally see being funded through their plan, it's really, really important that they do get a proper tax receipt with the provider's details, including the ABN number. They can also get a tax invoice, which is fine, but it does need to show that a zero balance so that payment has been made. Just another little hint as well that we've noticed, if a participant goes to, say, Woolworths on the weekend to purchase nappies or incontinence products, it's really important that they pay for those separately from any other everyday items, because this will ensure that when we do put that reimbursement through, that it's going to be processed and payment will be made more quickly.
Perfect. Thanks, Tash.
Thanks, Bella.
Look, as so as Tash mentioned, obviously a huge focus that we've seen as a plan manager is from the payment integrity team is obviously looking into that short-term accommodation, so that STA respite. So obviously we've noticed a very sharp increase in STA invoices being investigated, put on hold, requiring further information from the NDIS, so anything that we have sent through. We know there's a lot of chatter going on about this in the industry at the moment. So thankfully, the NDIS have released some further information in the past week about how STA can be claimed. Beck will pop in the chat function just a link to that FAQ page from the NDIA. So it does clearly break down some of these changes as well that you can go back to. I guess we have been, and on the back of that payment integrity team, Plan Partners has been implementing a lot of these changes recently just to make sure that we are claiming correctly for it. We have enough information to go back to the NDIA on. So it is good to have a bit more of that official information too. I did just want to take the time to go through some of that basic info for short-term or for STA or short-term accommodation, and then we'll take a quick look at the requirements that we are asking for and we need to process this on the back of it. So just to start off, so that I guess initial purpose for short-term accommodation and the initial setup for it. So it is designed to be supporting informal carers to be able to continue in their caring role. So meaning that it's helping participants and their informal supports take time apart. It hasn't changed with how much it can be funded. So we've got 28 days per plan year with a limit of 14 days at a time. It is also still coming out of your core support, so your category 1 funding from the plan. Currently, it does not need to be stated and it is still flexible, but of course adhering to all of these guidelines as well. It's important to note that the price guide does and can cover different ratios. So that's inclusive of individual support. So your 1-to-1, you've got 1-to-2, 1-to-3, and 1-to-4 staffing ratios as well. So that's obviously depending on the participants' needs and funding. Beck's going to just pop in a link to our price guide navigator, which we'll again touch on, but it does have a nice breakdown and really visually shows you those different weekdays, weekends, public holidays, and all of the different line item limits that are there for STA as well. I think another good thing to keep in mind is that the NDIS have stated that STA is primarily designed for group accommodation, so those multiple ratios there. Obviously, if there is evidence that a participant requires individual support or funding for that individual accommodation, 1-to-1 support may be considered, absolutely. And I think the sort of main thing that we want is, please contact us for if there is anything to discuss there as well. A lot of this is case by case too, so always best to discuss with the plan manager. Another question that they have mentioned is, can STA be used for people living in SIL or living alone? The NDA have confirmed that no, this is because if a participant is living alone or in a SIL environment, they are already having that time apart from family and informal supports. It does obviously create a lot of questions. The NDIA have announced they will bring out a new operational guideline targeting STA. So that is meant to be available December of this year. So hopefully, in a week or so that will come out and obviously provide a lot more clarification on this and to be able to answer more questions. And we will keep you updated once that's released and send you any information that's relevant there. I guess just to go into a little bit further on what does this mean and how we've been able to adapt and implement some of these changes to the way STA is claimed. So just again to reiterate those inclusions for that, I guess all-inclusive line item for STA, that's the accommodation, it's your support workers. When it is that group setting or that multiple ratio for STA, it's inclusive now of meals and activities in that way. Just in terms of transport costs, the NDIA have stated that participants can't use their SDA funding to pay for the transport to the accommodation. If somebody does want to access SDA that's a little bit further away from where they normally reside, the cost of that travel is meant to be and considered a day-to-day sort of living cost, and it is expected to be paid for separately as well. So with all of this and obviously that feedback from the payment integrity team that we've been seeing for a fair while now, we've obviously had to adapt our processes and ask for a lot more information on STA when we are approving quotes or reviewing invoices that have been sent in there. As I said before, our advice is always to get a quote approved by your plan manager first. So just before booking or attending any STAs. Sorry, I'll just remind everyone if you can mute yourselves as well. I think there's a bit of feedback coming through. But yes, obviously getting that quote approved is just so we can verify the funding that's available for participants and to check the number of days it's been used. So I guess all of this is to make sure that anything that does get sent through to the NDIS is going to be paid for, so that we're doing all of those checks, obviously prepayment as well. So just to go in and on screen, you can see some of those requirements that we are asking for. And this is all off the back of what the NDIA are directly asking us when they are reviewing invoices as well. So service agreements, so from the STA provider, confirmation of any confirmation of the accommodation that's used during that stay, information on support workers that are attending, what supports are being provided. And then, of course, contacting participants as well, just to check in with them how it's relating to their goals and that checking funding as well. I think it's really crucial to remember that no informal supports can attend the STA, so we have to confirm that as well. Again, that purpose that they've reiterated for STA is to be giving both the participants and their informal supports a break, so it does need to be done separately and they can't attend. And just based on the NDIS outlist, which we'll touch on again, but these parts are specifically mentioned by the NDIS. So anything cruises, that dreaded word holidays, we've got airfares, activities within that, such as theme parks, theatres, movies, sporting events, anything like that. We can't claim, just in general, anything like that would need to have that like NDIA approval as well. Just remember, like participants can, of course, go on holidays themselves. Like they can fund any of that and can absolutely continue to use their usual support worker, consumables, anything that they would need for their day-to-day life and activities. It's just that's not considered STA when they're going on a holiday and using those supports, and it is obviously considered separately. So keep in mind that does need to be invoiced as per the price guide for those types of supports. Tash, just before I move on to the NDIS outlist, was there anything else you wanted to reiterate or add to that?
Yeah, I think it's just really important at the moment that plan partners have collated a lot of the information and a lot of the responses that we were receiving from the NDIA, particularly in relation to STA. We've been able to build some really robust processes and templates for this. So if you do send in an invoice and we do require more information, you will receive a template from us requesting that additional information. And this is just to really ensure that when we are processing through those invoices and if they are picked up by the payment integrity team, we already have all that information ready to go. So our goal is to make sure that, first of all, invoices are going to be paid, all participants are going to be reimbursed, and we're just trying to make that happen as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, perfect. I think the thing is, please contact us. Like, we want to be able to have these discussions with you as well. We have our live chat team, but if you are unsure about anything with that, please give us a call.
Yeah, absolutely. And we might just cover off as well, Bella, just today's session is obviously to provide you all the information possible. We do understand that sometimes, and a lot of the time, there is something happening in participants' lives. There's, a change of circumstance. So we will still look at that absolutely case by case.
Yeah, absolutely. Onto the NDIS out list. So this information, as I'm sure everyone is aware and saw on the 1st of October, they did release a specific in and out list with a start date of the 3rd of October, so 2 days notice, which we love. But obviously with the tight turnaround, this has created a whole lot of questions, and obviously we work where we can with our support coordinators and providers and participants to provide as much information and support as possible. I think with the lists on screen is just a few things that we have been getting quite a lot of common questions from, or a lot of questions with that. So just wanted to touch on that for everyone today. So your iPads, your laptops, smartwatches, any of those computer accessories, they are no longer funded by the NDIS. They have stated that this can be used as a replacement support. However, that is still needing NDIA approval for that to be funded by us and by your plan manager. So there is a specific form on the NDIS website for this. So that does need to go through that whole process with the NDIA directly. I think it's important to note, like, of course, if we do receive any, written approval or permission from the NDIA planner or from the NDIA itself, we are more than happy to process that with that written approval. Of course, if it's also mentioned in the plan and sort of listed there as well, that's fine for us to do. It's just keeping that in mind as a of what we need. Meals, so they did specifically mention, so no takeaway, groceries, your food delivery platform, so nothing from Uber Eats and Deliveroo and all of those online platforms there. The meals that can be paid must have that 70-30 breakdown on an invoice so that we can obviously claim it correctly. Nothing's changed in that way, in that the NDIS won't cover the cost of ingredients. They will only fund that preparation and delivery portion of it. And that does unfortunately mean anything from like a supermarket with, I think it's My Muscle Chef or any of those sort of ready-made meals from the grocery can't be funded. It's sort of got to come from meal providers like your Able Foods, Light and Easy, Good Meal Co., anything like that. Alternative therapies, pretty straightforward with this one, but just still like to mention because we do still get a few questions on it. But your naturopath, aromatherapy, yoga, Reiki, acupuncture, any of those alternative therapies do need to be aren't able to be funded, sorry. Remedial massage is one that we do get a few questions on as well. The remedial massage can only be funded when it is done by an allied health professional like a physio. It can't just be done at your local massage parlor there. It does need to be done by an allied health professional and therefore claimed under that line item as well. And just lastly for this slide, animal therapies, again, a lot of questions on this one. So the NDIS did mention specifically puppy and goat therapy. They have clarified since in their FAQ page that's, I think, been put in the chat a couple of times now, but they can fund animal assisted therapy can be done. And that's when it is completed by an OT speech psychologist, when they are providing that therapy service. And they might be using that animal in lieu or, within that session, that's fine, but that's got to be done by, again, an allied health professional, and it does get claimed under that correct line item for the therapy as well. So it's sort of more anything that's like horse riding or, just going to, see animals in that way and have that play therapy. That's not something that can be funded by the NDIS. Tash, anything to add on this slide before we move on to some more detail?
No, I think you've covered it all, Bella.
Perfect. So just a bit more on the therapy. So again, obviously a lot of questions coming through about that. Essentially for us, I think it was in the last price guide, they did really spread out a lot of those therapies. So each one has a very specific line item for it. So again, you've got counselor and social work, OT, psych, and speech and EP and all of those things. So they had included the other professional line item, which was to encompass anything that falls outside of those categories or those specific ones. I think just important to note with the NDIS outlist and the very specific changes that they have made, we will need to be asking further information on what was provided under the other professional line item. So I think our advice is just to be, if it is for psychology, use a psychology line item and so forth. It's just going to make processing a lot easier as well. So NDIS put, sorry, just with one of the changes and that's been very topical this week is just music and art therapy. So I know we've got a lot of that coming through and I can see a couple of things in the chat as well. But the NDIS have confirmed and come out this week some changes that will be happening from the 1st of February 2025. So essentially, participants will be able to still access these supports, but it is in a different way and it is through the community participation budget. It does reduce the amount that can be charged for it. So it's at a one-to-one rate of $67.56 an hour when delivered by that registered provider, that therapist. And then they have also included that there can be a group rate of the $194 an hour, and that's when it's delivered to a minimum of 4 participants by the provider as well. And look, the NDIS have said that they will, again, like STA, bring out a new operational guideline, ideally next week or, throughout December as well. So we will have further information. And again, that's something that we'll let everyone know sort of as soon as that comes through too. So that's kind of a bit of the basic information we've just received in the last day or so. Moving on to low cost AT, I know there's a lot of information to get through, but this one is a bit hard to sort of put a blanket rule over with any low cost AT or AT in general. We will always be checking a copy of the plan. We say this all the time, but if you do have it as a support coordinator, please send it into your plan manager. It's just the greatest source of information that we can have. The $1,500 limit from core does still exist. It's still applicable. And again, it does really depend on what that product is that we are looking to claim. It is case by case on what we might need to fund that, whether it's an allied health professional letter or if it does need NDIA approval based on that new legislation as well. So just a couple of points there. The next one that we do see a lot of questions come through is obviously activities, your workshops, classes. So unfortunately, entry costs can't be charged. Not that it ever really was, but it is very specific now that entry fees cannot be charged to NDIS plans. So again, your theme parks, sporting, theatres, movies, all of that stuff, classes, unfortunately. Keep in mind, obviously, support workers are still able to attend. They are still able to go and support participants to be accessing the community, but it just means that those classes can't be paid for by the NDIS. I'll pass back to Tash just to go through a couple of the other things that have come out with that new legislation as well.
Thanks, Bella. Just in addition to what Bella was just saying, I think I know it's difficult at the moment. We're seeing a lot of plans just being rolled over and plan review meetings not actually happening. However, if you do have a plan review meeting, it's so important to try and get as many of the supports actually stated on the plan as possible. It just means when we are receiving invoices and we do have a copy of that plan and they're already on the plan, there's no questions asked. We're able to process those invoices through very, very quickly. So just some further changes in the NDIS. So stronger evidence for change of circumstances. So a request for a plan reassessment will only be granted if there is a crisis or emergency that's caused a significant impact to a participant, or if they've experienced fraud or financial exploitation. Early internet intervention pathways. So when applying for the NDIS, the NDIA will let an individual know if they qualify based on two pathways: early intervention, disability, or both. We have been advised recently that we are seeing special schools send out communications to parents that navigators will be starting in schools next year as well. A stricter compliance, we see this as a good thing. The NDIA may consider changing a funding amount, making a plan period shorter, or changing how a plan is managed if they believe that funds are not being spent in line with the plan or how the plan was designed. And we're also seeing plans being moved away from plan management to agency managed if they believe that there's any fraudulent behaviour occurring. And the format of NDIS plans will be receiving a refresh. We're not quite sure how this is going to look, but as soon as we get any updated information, we'll be sharing that with you as well. So we'll just touch quickly on our tools and our resources. So we are known for having a realm of resources and tools to the whole community. Our budget calculator is fantastic for putting together budgets that you can compare to the plan, making sure that you are maximising the funding for participants and their plans. And our price guide navigator, everybody loves this. It's such a quick way of looking up any line items, particularly with all the changes that are occurring at the moment. We are seeing line items being removed or changed. So it's really important that if you do have any questions or if you're not sure, this is a great tool that you can actually start with to get clarification. Just with our dashboard, I'll just quickly touch on it. Our dashboard's fantastic for building capacity, which is where we are seeing the NDIS really focus on a lot of their changes. It's all about building capacity, which it should be. So our dashboard's fantastic for building capacity. Support coordinators have the exact same view as participants. So if they did want to talk them through, their funding or invoicing, they can actually do that very easily. It gives you real-time spend for invoices. You can also track really quickly if participants are in an overspend or an overspend. And I will just highlight at the moment as well, another feature of our dashboard is our service agreements and the ability to quarantine funds, which is really important with the PACE system removing service bookings. So really important that if you can send us through a service agreement, we can quarantine the funds away to ensure that invoices are going to be paid.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tash. Look, that's the presentation that we wanted to get out. And as I said, we've sort of collated a lot of the common questions that we've been receiving for you today. And I can see the chat function is going off quite a bit, so we might jump into some of those. But we will pop in the details just for our partnerships team across Australia. So you do have a representative in each state. So if you do have anything very specific, any questions about the dashboard, please reach out to that state representative as well. Bex just popped that in the chat for you. But I might just jump into the chat function. I'll probably just stop sharing my screen just so we can get through and have a look at the questions as well. Beck and Jamie, was there anything or any kind of trends that we wanted to get through to start with?
Not so much of a trend, Bella. We do have a question regarding, I guess, group pricing for STA. So with short-term accommodation group pricing, is this split across participants or is it charged per participant?
Yeah. So it is charged per participant, and I think Beck did put in a chat, or I can get that up as well, through our price guide. Essentially, yes, you would be able to charge like the ratio if it's 4 participants, you'd be charging that 1 to 4 line item rate to each participant there. I might pop that in the chat as well. Again, just for everyone to look at.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Any other questions to pop through? Sorry, it's going to take me a little bit of time just to try and read through everything as well. But Jamie, if you can let us know if there's anything else to go through.
Absolutely. And just
Yeah.
again, on the short-term accommodation, just requiring some information as to what defines a group or shared living environment for short-term accommodation. So would this be a group facility with shared activities, or would this be individual accommodations?
Oh, look, it would be probably group, like group accommodation or group sort of respite provider for that as well. And look, as I said, we do have an operational guideline coming out in December, so we don't have, I guess, all of the answers today on that. The NDIS have put sort of that limited information on their website as well. But yeah, we're definitely holding out for that operational guideline to come out.
Amazing. Thank you, Bella. And just one last one that we've just been popped in the chat that hasn't been covered would be from Michelle. Just wondering if naturopath used to be covered within the NDIS scheme, as they've noticed it's now on the no list.
Yeah. Look, it used to be, and I think it would have been put through under that, again, that other professional line item. However, as of the 3rd of October, it's no longer considered an NDIS support.
Beautiful.
Mm.
A few more coming through.
Yeah. No, that's good.
So just one that's popped up here. The O4 line item that used to cover camp fees for people who are socially isolated appears to be on hold. Could we shed some information as to why that O category 4 line item that people use for activities might go on hold with plan partners, please?
Yeah, of course. So look, again, that kind of falls, I think, under the category of that other professional line item in that, we do need to get further information on what is actually being covered under it. That line item, I think that what they're mentioning doesn't have a price limit. So that's where we sort of would be able to cover camps and classes and activities and things like that previously. So again, prior to that 3rd of October. I know we try and get as much information again just to protect and have that information for the NDIS should they come asking questions. I think we are sort of waiting again and sort of trying to get an answer from the NDIS on that line item, considering with camps and things like that as well.
Amazing. Thanks for that, Bella. And yeah, I guess there's just a question around the other professional line item in category
Yeah.
15. So that's, I guess, very much the same as we're requiring more information. Would that be right?
Yes, yeah, correct. And, as I said, like ideally use the line item that is there for that. But, at the end of the day, if you are an allied health professional that is providing those therapy services that are not listed on like the no list, that is fine. But yeah, I think it was just you need to have as much information as possible.
Amazing.
Olga, I can see you've got your hand up. Did you want to ask a question now?
Oops, you're just on mute, Olga.
That's right, we can come back to it. Jamie, there's a few other coming in as well. Was there any others to answer?
Yeah, quite a few coming through. So we've got a question there from Kylie wondering, is travel such as kilometers while on short-term accommodation covered?
Yeah, so look, anything that's sort of within that STA, yes, but as I mentioned, the travel to get to an STA isn't something that the NDIS will fund. So that is a personal expense to get there, if it's outside of those STA days.
Amazing, thank you. And I know we touched on it a bit in the presentation, but could we just maybe go through the evidence that we are requiring when short-term accommodation invoices are being submitted, please?
Yeah. Look, we like from a provider, anything for their service agreements that are in place, support worker information, what accommodation is being used, anything like that, anything that's going to support and have that information there. And as I said, from participants, it would be a little bit of that reasonable and necessary information of how it's sort of going to relate to their goals. Are they getting away from their informal supports to give each other a break? That type of information.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention with STA that it is a daily rate. So we would expect everything to be included in that actual daily rate.
Correct.
Beautiful. Sorry, just having a look at, there's quite a few coming through the chat. While I have a look through that, I can see we've got another hand up if we're wanting to go to Equi Guard.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfection. My question is around activities when you're on an STA. So I have read through a lot of the frequently asked questions under the NDIS page, which says that general fitness, health, recreational activities costs aren't covered. Is there an exception under STAs for this if the design of the STA is to allow the participant to try new activities and build on new skills and stuff like that?
Yeah, look, it's a tricky one. So they have mentioned those activities and meals and things like that can't be funded under one-to-one, like individual support, whereas it can be done for the ratio ones for that group setting. I'd love to have sort of a proper answer. I think for those ones we like for that very specific activities and what can and can't be done, we will need to sort of wait for that operational guideline to come through and just to confirm it, unfortunately.
So does that mean just with STAs that have been run prior to that? Did you say 3rd of December is the next release on, which is around the corner?
Yes, I think it was the 2nd, or I think they said early December coming through. I can double check that and just to see, but yeah, they've sort of said December 2024. So ideally that's going to come out next week. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
We might just take one last question from New Wave Support.
Yeah, sweet. I hope it's not going to be too much of a thing you can hear if it's going through my stereo. But I think like in the past, the way we've done our STAs, we sit down and work out our budget, accommodation, food, travel, and then incorporate it. And we've never pushed 100% of the day rate. So I'm presuming like what you guys are saying there is, do I need to give like a receipt every single purchase that I do, or when I give you guys my STA quote, is that, yeah, do you kind of get what I mean? Or
Yeah. So we would look to have a roster of the supports or what you're providing, not so much a receipt, if that makes sense. So when you would be sending in your quote, you would obviously just be sending in a roster of supports, if that makes sense.
Like, for example, been to the Gold Coast, we paid for the flights, paid for accommodation. That's no longer a thing. Paid for
No.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not. Yeah, no flights. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remove the word holiday from your vocabulary.
No.
Don't want to hear that word.
Everything needs to be about building capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Copy. Thank you.
Just a last one there, just from Empower Packs. I can see you've got your hand up as well.
Hi, we're a provider as well, and so we've been pretty impacted by this. But I actually wanted to thank you for doing the heavy lifting, because you have come out as the front runner for enforcing all of this stuff. So it's helping us to get everything aligned with what needs to happen, and the education that's coming out from you guys, and in conjunction with operational guidelines, it's really going to help us to get the best out of everyone's plans. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Oh,
that's
very
thank you
sweet.
so much. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look, thank you so much. We'll obviously keep sending out updates as they come, and that's sort of obviously the purpose of today, is just to kind of put everything in one place for you. Any new things that will come out, we will notify. But as I said, you've got the contact details for your state representative. So if there is anything further, please reach out to them as well. And if there's anything more specific, we have run out of time just for further questions. And I know Riddy and Beck and Jamie have been going crazy in the chat trying to answer everything. But yeah, as I said, if we didn't get to it, please reach out and send us an email so we can cover it with you directly as well. But thank you so much to everyone for attending today's session.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Thank you.
See you later.